Oh my goodness, we have yet another fantastic and very distinguished panel, and a number of you I have actually worked with myself, so hooray! The first guest I want to introduce is Adrienne Boris, and she is the director of opera and theater with a special interest in new work, stories about women, and opera in non-traditional spaces. She is artistic director of Helios Opera, the modular opera projects, and executive producer and stage director at Lowell Opera House at Harvard University. Recent projects include the upcoming digital premiere of Poulain La Voix Humaine with Helios Opera, which is actually going to be tomorrow, August 14th at 7:30 p.m. At www.heliosopera.com. We'll put that in the chat box later so our viewers can see that. La Scuola degli Amanti Ossia Così fan tutti, a feminist reimagining of Mozart's Battle of the Sexes opera, Lowell Opera House. The world premiere of Divas, a new play with opera music by Laura Neal in Opera Hub, which the Boston Globe called a touching, funny, and fascinating evening. The New England premiere of Burst by Amy Leigh Horan, Chelsea Theatre Works, the Brain Aneurysm Foundation, La Boheme, Long Island Lyric Opera and NEMPAC Opera Project, several world premiere 10-minute operas with Boston Opera Collaborative's annual Opera Bites, and Or by Liz Duffy Adams, Maiden Phoenix Theatre Company. And that was nominated for the Elliot Norton Award for Outstanding Fringe Production by the Boston Theatre Critics Association. She has been Young Artist Stage Director at Opera North, Artistic Associate at Opera Hub, and National New Play Network Producer in Residence at New Repertory Theater. She received her MFA in Directing from Boston University. Please visit www.adrienneboris.com. Next, we have Rebecca Miller Kratzer, and she is a New York-based theater and opera director. Her work, rooted in explorations of ritual, brings the scale and gravitas of opera to the theater and the intimacy and moment-to-moment truth of theater to opera, rendering both forms awe-inspiring, relevant, and accessible. Prior to attending Columbia University's MFA directing program under Anne Bogart, Rebecca was the artistic director of the NEMPAC Opera Project in Boston, Massachusetts, where she produced and directed fully staged operas in Boston's historic Faneuil Hall. Favorite credits include Don Giovanni, La Cenerentola, and Fidelio, Cendrillon, Alcina, and Second Nature from Opera del West, Three Sisters, and The Merchant of Venice in Columbia University, and In the Next Room at the Footlight Club. Rebecca is also a directing fellow at Opera Saratoga and has worked at a variety of theater companies and arts organizations in Boston and in New York. She received her Bachelor of Arts in Theater from Brandeis University, a certificate in Arts Administration from Boston University, and is currently an MFA theater directing candidate at Columbia University. This summer, she is incredibly grateful to work with Opera Saratoga, Katie Mitchell, and Whitney White on pre-production and digital work as we embrace and navigate this new normal. Visit www.millerrebecca.com. Next, we have Roxanna Myhrum, and she is a director of opera, theater, and puppetry who specializes in imaginary world building, site-specific performance, and ensemble created work. She is the artistic director of Puppet Showplace Theater, where she curates a year-round season of live puppetry performance, teaches classes for all ages, and culminates new work by local artists. A sought-after puppetry director, she has credits at almost all of Boston's regional theaters and many universities. Most recently, she served as the puppetry director for Company One's Wolf Play. As an opera director, Roxy has helmed over 20 productions in Boston's vibrant fringe opera scene, including with Lowell House Opera, Opera Hub, Boston Opera Collaborative, Juventus New Music Ensemble, Opera Britannica, and others. She is originally from Springfield, Massachusetts, and is a graduate of Harvard University. Learn more about her current work at www.puppetshowplace.org. And finally, we have Nathan Troup. He maintains a body of work spanning standard operatic repertoire, new work premieres, uniquely curated site-specific projects, and distinct collaborations with multidisciplinary artists. 2019 to 2020 season highlights include engagements with Los Angeles Opera and Tanglewood Music Festival. Troup made his European directorial debut in October 2017 at Ireland's Wexford Festival with his acclaimed production of Rossini's La Scala di Seta, described as neatly dramatized by Opera Today UK and especially well crafted from Opera Wire. 2018 to the 19th season engagements include Eugene Onegin with Intermountain Opera Bosman, The Beggar's Opera with the Emmanuel Music, Bon Appetit with Des Moines Metro Opera televised on Iowa PBS. Additional career highlights include collaborations with Jessica Lange Dance on Perliosi's Sabat Mater for Lincoln Center's White Light Festival and The Wanderer for BAM Next Wave Festival. Mizzy Mazzoli's new opera Proving Up, serving as associate director on James Dara's production for the inaugural Opera Omaha One Festival, and stage director for the New York premiere presented by the Miller Theater. Installation artist Lee Mingwei's Sonic Blossom for the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. Visual performance artist Ragnar Kjartansson's Song for the Institute of Contemporary Art, Boston. Troup's work has garnered Best of Boston accolades in 2009 and 2014, and he was named Boston Lyric Opera's Emerging Artist for the 2015-16, 2016, and 2017 seasons. Other notable engagements include Santa Fe Opera, Glimmerglass Festival, Wolf Trap Opera, Castleton Festival, and Des Moines Metro Opera, where he serves as a resident stage director for the company's Apprentice Arts program. Troup serves on the board of directors for Guerrilla Opera, director of TEDx Cambridge, and has spent the past decade as an outreach artist with Sarasa Chamber Music Ensemble's award-winning outreach program. Outstanding merit and contribution by Early Music America. Accessing classical music to neglected and incarcerated youth. Troup is an associate professor of opera at the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley and on faculty at Boston University. Thank you again so much for joining us all this evening. It is wonderful to have you all. So I will hand it over to Alex.
Thank you so much for everyone joining us tonight. Just a couple of housekeeping things to keep in mind. Everyone on this call so far is being very mindful of being muted when it's a time for others to speak. But do note that at the end of tonight's program, in the last 25 minutes or so, there will be a question and answer portion. So if there is something that you wish to address to all of our directors on the panel today or to one specifically, to take note of it, to know that you can drop it in the chat box and I'll keep track of it, or that that would be an appropriate time to turn your mic on. Also, if you're not one of the many who's had to use Zoom daily to survive in this particular time period, do note that in the top right corner, there is the option of speaker view or gallery view. So if you wish to see for the forum discussions everybody's face while they're listening and speaking, I would opt for the gallery view as opposed to speaker. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Anyone who has sung or performed in Boston has most likely worked with one of you, if not more than one of you. So I feel like tonight is one of those just really fun times where we get to tout how many spoils of riches we have in the arts. And I think that Boston gets such a bizarre reputation over the years of not being an opera town. But when I look at the collective bodies of work of either things that I've seen that all of you have directed, or just the knowledge of those productions, or having been in some of them for both Heather and myself, it's amazing because there are so many smaller companies. So I'm going to first speak with Adrienne Boris, who has added yet another new company to Boston, but has done one that is utilizing a technology that we don't usually see. So Adrienne, can you tell us, before we see your promo video for Helios, a little bit about how Helios came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So I met my friend and colleague, Theodora Cotterell, through the Così fan tutte that I did at Lowell House Opera. And she and her partner, who at the time was a student at Harvard Business School, had been thinking about this question of what if we could start an opera company that functioned a little bit more like a business and slightly less like a nonprofit, and put its emphasis on attracting a modern and diverse audience, using techniques that maybe are more common in the business world or to startups for its infrastructure, basically. So fast forward like more than a year later, because life happens and gigs happen and pandemics happen. And then the pandemic happened and Theodora said to me, wouldn't this be the perfect time for La Voix Humaine? And I said, oh my gosh, you're right. Let's tie this in with a Helios launch, because we feel like this is a time when opera needs to start thinking a little bit differently to get through this time, and that's part of what Helios is about. And we decided that we were going to be sort of a flexible modular company. So it's fun, you said it's based in Boston, which like right now it kind of is, because mostly because I'm here, and HBS is here as well. But we do think of ourselves as sort of like a digital initiative, I guess.
So really see
everywhere.
on the confines of city and more, we can reach people virtually in multiple countries and multiple areas.
Yeah, that's right. So our first initiative is this thing called Modular Opera Projects, on which we have a little bit of support from the Social Enterprise Initiative at Harvard Business School. And it was basically created in response to the inability of artists to rehearse and perform live during the pandemic. And we have La Voix Humaine is the pilot project in that, but our long/short-term goal is really to raise enough capital to hire many artists and be able to empower them to create and produce work within their own homes. Of course, this is one of the only times where you luck out if you live with another opera singer, because we are, looking for folks who live together, or for one-person dramas, for singers who can produce them themselves.
Now, for those who don't know about La Voix Humaine, can you just speak to the plot a little bit? Because it's one of those ones that comes up for those of us who did maybe opera scenes where there was this, star soprano and you could sing a long time and act alone. But what is the audience entail for?
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but basically it's the story of a woman who is in her room. She seems sort of trapped and unable to leave, and she's waiting for a call from a man. I think that's all I'll say. And when the call finally comes, it ends up being a call that is totally life-changing for her, and she learns things that are going to alter her reality.
Excellent. So, I mean, for anybody looking for new digital content to watch, you're in luck, because this premieres tomorrow. I already have my ticket to the show, but I will throw down in the chat box once we're done meeting all of our directors a little bit more one-on-one, that link, so that those of us who see the trailer who want to watch it will have a chance to. So
and,
just to
and
visit,
the other thing,
sorry,
can I just add one thing to that? The other thing that we think makes MOP stand out a little bit, hopefully, is the emphasis on sort of pre-recorded quality. So we're not looking at like live streaming or a living room concert necessarily, but things that are really more short films, that are rehearsed over Zoom and then recorded separately. Essentially we rehearsed over Zoom, and then Theodora recorded separately and sent me the dailies, and what was assembled with Julian's editing is really a short film with audio cleanup as well.
Really stepping
so I hope you will all join us.
Film meeting opera, which I think is so exciting, and also acknowledging that not all of us are ready for sitting down for a live stream at the end of a week. I think that we've seen so much digital content that it's very mindful and smart to be able to have content that is able to be viewed with the knowledge that you can return to it, that it's not like a one only and you missed it. So we're gonna pop into Adrienne's body of work right now, and we're going to look at 3 stills from productions that Adrienne directed. And Adrienne, when we are looking at the still, can you speak to a little bit about the production? So starting with Divas from Opera Hub.
Oh, there are my downloads down there. Yeah, so this is the world premiere of a new play with opera music, as we called it, called Divas, written by the playwright Laura Neal and commissioned by Opera Hub, produced in association with Diva Museum. And this was a 2-year-long collaborative process between me, Christy Lee Gibson, who runs Opera Hub, Laura, and this wonderful cast of women, some of whom aren't even pictured here because we had people, you know, have to leave the cast for schedule reasons, but who really added their voice a lot to the development in the meantime. And basically the premise was 9 great divas from throughout history, different time periods, are somehow resurrected and trapped in the same room together, and they can't figure out why they're there or how to get out. So you're also looking at 9 different period silhouettes made out of muslin.
Yes, we can see the different necklines changing with the time period. I was there in the audience. Yeah. This was a very engaging history retrospective of some very famous singers over the course of like 350 years. It was very expansive. Going into the next still, this has been mentioned in your bio, but I believe this is the recent production, and here's Theodora right here from Lowell House. Can you speak to a little bit about what the show is and what's going on?
Yeah, so basically I inverted the title of Così fan tutte. The Ostia titles I always think are really interesting in Mozart's work, and this one literally means the school for lovers. So I decided to take that Ostia title literally and set Così fan tutte in a private boarding high school in Naples, Florida, with Don Alfonso as like a lacrosse teacher coach, and Despina as sort of an overworked house mother who's been given money under the table to take special care of Dorabella and Fiordaligi. So the whole, it was one of my probably most heavily concepted shows in that the whole look of the show took its inspiration from the title. And so all of the furniture was these school desks that you see, and there were some steps behind that, but really it was sort of a big open stage with 4 school chairs and 4 school desks, and that furniture made up, you know, all of the various settings of the opera. And it was, I think, really fun and contemporary, and all 4 of these guys did a great job.
Well, I love, because it immediately shows us the age of the characters too, I think, in a new way. So that just looks so much fun. And this last still that we're going to see from your portfolio, I'm taking a wild guess here that it's Bohème, but I know of several consumption deaths that this could be. So
that's right. Well, and this is when we're going to start seeing all the COVID consumption operas in the future. Don't steal my idea. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so this is a La Bohème at Long Island Lyric Opera, or sometimes called Opera at the Madison. It's a presenting house in Rockville Center, New York, that does one originally produced opera a year. And so this is really fun because I got to work with some New York-based singers who were wonderful. And this whole set was really accomplished through projections. It's one of the bigger stages that I've ever worked on, and the only time that I've really had a chance to really dive deeply into projections, because basically the set is 2 3-sided cubes that are just totally white, and then, you know, all of this is projected onto it, and we rehearsed it in like 6 days and texted in like 3 days. There was.
Wow, fantastic.
Impressive.
So to end today, we're going to see our second trailer that you've released for La Voix Humaine. I'm going to ask that anyone who is not muted to mute themselves, just so we don't have any noise pollution. And we'll let Theodora take it away. We're going to stop our share there. That's so exciting.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex. So yeah, tomorrow night at 7:30, and if you can't make it, it'll stay up for 6 weeks on our YouTube channel. So I really hope that you will check it out. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to go right over to the second of our NEMPAC Opera alumna directors, Rebecca Miller-Kratzer. It's so exciting to see you back. Oh, one thing, Adrienne, I didn't mention this, but it's so awesome to see Theodora in that clip, because she and I met about 12 years ago at this point in Belgium. So full circle, everybody
Oh,
getting
no
to
way.
the world. That's fantastic. Rebecca, welcome. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. You know, about as well as we all can be right now. Thanks so much.
So in terms of returning, for those of you who are familiar with NEMPAC Opera Project's history, Rebecca did direct and was our artistic director for 3 seasons. We had La Cenerentola, we had Fidelio, and we had Don Giovanni on your watch. And it was so wonderful just for myself becoming the artistic director to reach out to you and have you as a touchstone of this wonderful line of artists that are so open into collaborating with each other. But I see that you are continuing your ventures down in New York. So can you speak to what either your current projects have been or what the most recent thing that maybe was shut down? So either or, what have you been focusing on in our how do we stay creative in directors time period?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we all shut down in mid-March, I was in rehearsal for a new show. I was in my second year of my MFA program at Columbia, and I had just closed Merchant of Venice, and we were starting work on a new play called Tenderly by Ida Ismaili, who is one of the second year playwrights at Columbia. And I knew we were going to shut down that night, and we had a rehearsal, and it's a two-hander, and the playwright and her boyfriend, who is a Columbia actor, were in it. So it was really a very small room, and I kind of knew we were going to shut down. So I said, you know what, guys, let's run it. Let's do the whole thing. You know, I set up the room in this kind of modular way. I call it a 4 chairs rehearsal. And I let them know that they had certain things that they could do. They could sit, stand, lie down. We've talked about physical action. And I said, listen, just let the pages drop as you go through it. And they didn't know it was going to get shut down. And I said, just let the pages go. And so when we finished the show and we all got the email, it was the entire script was on the floor and we had gotten through the whole thing. And it was kind of a really beautiful way to say, okay, we'll pick this up when we can. And what's happening now is that actually on the 20th, so next Thursday, there will be a staged reading of this play at Guild Hall in the Hamptons. And so there will be a live stream, which I can get the link for you, but it will actually be a live staged reading in an outdoor cafe kind of area with some social distancing. So that's what we're working on right now. And I'm also working on an online project called The Evening Melody. And it's with a team. It's actually very interesting because it's 2 directing teams working kind of concurrently. And then the piece is performed in Farsi and in English. And so through a live stream and a poll, the audience can decide if they prefer to hear the English or the Farsi, and it's based on a majority, and it flip-flops back and forth. And so you see 2 screens kind of up against each other, and that we did 1 performance earlier in August, and then we're doing through Lime Fest at the Tank in New York City. It will be performed again. Yeah, and so, you know, I'm just working on a lot of digital projects, a lot more technology than I thought would ever be. I consider myself an analog person and an analog director, and so this is far more technology than I thought I would be doing.
I think that might be the name of the game when we get to our group discussion of, you know, like how much and how to embrace and how to stay relevant in this time, but also take those skills with us after, if there is an after. So I'm going to go into my shared screen once again, and I want to revisit with you, Rebecca, a couple of stills from your history here at NEMPAC. And unfortunately for me, I'm in one of your stills and very pregnant at the time. Thank you, it's a profile. But can you speak a little bit about the production of La Cenerentola that you staged at Faneuil Hall for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually my very first opera that I directed. And this was Rossini's La Cenerentola at Faneuil Hall. And what really struck me about this version adaptation of Cinderella was that it was very enlightenment focused to me, and it felt very much about good deeds and good work, and there's not a lot of magic in it in the way that we associate the fairy tale usually. You know, there's more kind of it's the tutor and learning and being a good person is what pulls her through. And so I really wanted to embrace the revolutionary and enlightenment ideals and really work with Faneuil Hall. So that's why you see these silhouettes of the costumes, and our chorus were in red coats. And it was a wonderful experience.
And also handy because for those of you who don't know, Faneuil Hall demands that you have the bust of John Adams in the set of your show. So for all of these historical references surrounding the set, it felt really nice and correct to be dressed colonial nines. So in this next picture, can you speak to this production of Fidelio?
Yes, absolutely. So, Faneuil Hall is known as the Cradle of Liberty. And so we wondered if we set the show in a near future, what a show about imprisonment and freedom would speak to in this space that is so much about the American Revolution and our ideals of freedom, as complicated as they may be. And what we did with this production is that we set the prison, there's columns going around all the sides of Faneuil Hall. And so we dropped down bars, and we had the chorus on stage for the entire production. We had a very complicated system with our supernumeraries. If they needed to go to the bathroom or had an emergency or something like that, they could call a guard over and be escorted out of the hall if they needed a moment. But essentially, it was the idea that, we're in a corrupt new future, and it feels very close to our time.
And then in this third, for those of you who were present for our season featuring Don Giovanni, can you speak to, I'm assuming that this is near the end of Act 1, but I might be wrong, a little bit about the production and the way that we're seeing these framed depictions in the upstage area?
Yeah, so the set really echoes the artwork in Faneuil Hall. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to capture the different waves of feminism through the three women's roles. And so you can see, a suffragette, second wave and third wave feminism represented there. And so we were just really inspired by all the paintings and the way that women were left out of them. And so this production very much became about that for me. And at the end, we had the three women standing behind Giovanni, and they pulled out of the little book, a very, very large banner that listed a lot of women's names. It was at that time, the Larry Nassar USA Gymnastics had just come out. Me Too was like boiling, and so those names were inspired from there. So those were the names we saw listed out loud.
So three very, very different empowering productions, but very much left their mark for NEMPAC. And so now we're going to see a little bit of your work from Opera del West. And was this last season? This was Cendrillon?
Yeah, this was really just 1 year ago. A few days ago, we just opened this.
Although it probably feels like now more than 1 year because we're all in that together.
A lifetime ago.
Without further ado, let's take a glance at Cendrillon at Opera del West. We thank them for letting us show this clip. And for those of you who don't know, Cendrillon is yet another Cinderella story, and this one is by Massenet. thank you so much for letting us see just a snippet of one of my absolute favorite arias. I think that work, if you want magic in an opera, that's the one to go to. That one really does it for me. Thank you, Rebecca.
Of course.
So we're gonna hop over to Roxy. Hello, Roxy. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Alex. Thanks so much for having me.
Now, Roxy, for those of us who don't know, not only are you an opera director, but you have quite a, dare I say, hand in another form of theatrics, which is Roxy is our resident puppet master. And in terms of the work that you do over at Puppet Showplace, can you speak to outside of the world of opera, what else do you do in terms of directing?
Yeah, so my work in theater, I was trained as an actor, and then I think I just embraced what I sometimes call non-realistic theater. So if you want, living room dramas, call someone else. I think what really motivates me in both of these forms is bringing materials to life, animating substance and having it make an impact on an audience. And so those are things that are really exciting to me. And I kind of accidentally fell into both puppetry and opera. When I was a teenager, I had a teacher who was also involved at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center, which is a new work development kind of location in Waterford, Connecticut. And his company would staff the National Puppetry Conference, where they develop all of these new works of contemporary puppet theater. And so at an impressionable young age, I was working on these big ensemble puppetry productions, actually with an artist from China who had worked in the Beijing opera, but in the highly stylized movement forms and design forms that would help bring these epic stories to life. So I worked with her on a contemporary piece that was about fascism and all of these iconic characters in society, the mother, the warrior, the child. And, it just felt like this amazing laboratory of material and visual and sensory performance. And I think that has just carried me into all different stories and settings and audiences across lots of different styles of work. So at Puppet Showplace, I'm in a primarily curatorial position, but I also work as kind of as a stage director, as an outside eye, especially on new works that are developed mostly by solo performers or family business companies that then tour all over. So it's sort of the opposite of some of the forms of opera producing, like where we would work for a bazillion years and do a show twice with 100 people in it. Puppetry, we work also for a bazillion years, but usually those are for shows that we do thousands of times with single or duo or trio casts.
Now, you sent in absolutely one of my favorite experiences of seeing a puppet that comes from Puppet Showplace. Can you speak a little to the clip we're about to see from a joint Puppet Showplace and Metropolitan Chorale performance of, dare I say, the rarely done Unicorn, Manticore, and the Gorgon?
Yes.
I don't think it's a song cycle or even like a maybe an oratorio.
Yeah. So it's actually a double bill, right? So Metropolitan Chorale, it had been a dream of mine. I love staging opera, but I love staging anything. And in this particular piece, Metropolitan Chorale, 100-voice choir in Boston that does really ambitious, amazing rep and really thoughtful programming. They paired mythical beasts, right? That was the concept. The first piece, I actually have one of the characters, the weasel mask. behind
I see the weasel mask.
Was called a medieval bestiary, and it was a setting of medieval texts about different fantastical creatures. It was very strange and awesome. And we did that as this kind of intersection of shadow puppetry and surgical with the choir behind. And then piece, the unicorn, the gorgon, and the manticore is a Menotti madrigal fable, I think is what he calls it. And it has just several different, it's an allegory about a character who's a poet who his relationship with the townspeople, his art, and it's a commentary about the commodification of art. So there's three characters in it, the unicorn, the gorgon, and the manticore, who kind of represent art at different stages of one's life. The unicorn is the sort of innocent, creative spirit. The gorgon is a like the ego-driven, give me all my awards kind of pride. And then the manticore is this kind of introverted, everybody leave me alone. And each time he creates one of these characters who the story treats them as his pets, each time he creates one, everyone else in the community wants one, and each time they sort of get, for us, more derivative, more fake, more commodified. We staged this in a church. The choir was backing vocals. We worked with Calathumpian Consort, right, as well. And it was a really great experience where there was able to be vocal music, physical theater, and also puppetry.
So I'm going to go into my shared screen once again. We're going to see 3 examples of stills from Roxy's work, and then we're going to jump right into our clip of the unicorn. And the way that it was puppeteered, it was as though there was a living creature in the room. So first we're going to take a peek right here. Roxy, can you tell us which show this was for you?
So I worked for Lowell House Opera for a long time, and this is from Benjamin Britten's Midsummer Night's Dream, Titania and the Fairies. And in this version, I was inspired as though Puck were falling into a copy of Midstream, and then sort of his homework exploded. Magical fantasy piece, and lost boys, lost girls, fairy ensemble meets Titania.
Beautiful. I'm getting very like Rufio vibes from the face paint.
It was very Rufio. Definitely had Rufio in the visual research. This is a picture from a huge, crazy show that I directed at the Midnight or at Zoo. It was Midnight Zoo, and this was an ensemble created piece. It had about 30 people in the cast and an audience of about 4,000 people who saw it over one Halloween month. And this was a really great example of just how I like to work with people. We had an interesting space, and then we divided it up and said, you know, what's inspiring to you? What are the creatures that you could create here? Who's the keeper character who takes care of those creatures? And the whole premise was that we had mythical creatures who were at risk of going extinct. And the dialogue for this piece, you know, it sort of emerged from a lot of improvisation, night there. So that was really fun.
And then last but not least, we see our pop-up tenor, Wes Hunter, in, I'm assuming, a very provocative scene with a little bed and wine action.
Yep, you got it. Which was an amazing piece to work on, also with Lowell House Opera. And I think this is also a show that I had seen a lot of productions treated as sort of frivolous comedies, and while the opportunities for comedy in this show were really strong, similarly to Rebecca and Adrienne, you know, finding a through line that also speaks to commanding power of the female protagonists was also really great. So there's a line at the end, it's actually just given in recitative, where the Countess, who they're now is being played in the background there, by Haley. The line is "Vous qui faisiez la guerre aux femmes, vous voilà donc nos prisonniers. You who make war on, now you are our prisoners." So, like, if that's the premise of the show, how do we lead up to that moment?
Wonderful. And now to end on Roxy's highlight, we have a highlight of the unicorn, which we can already see in its beauty right here. And this is one of the movements of Menottes, the unicorn, the gorgon, and the manticore.
My swift and the